All right. Because I am X, I can't say X. So in this equation, because you are lesbian, queer lesbian, however you want to define yourself, you're not supposed to say certain things. And we've talked about this. Is there any subject matter, for example, beliefs, politics, etc., that you feel are taboo to talk about and you find yourself self-editing?
I don't self-edit anymore. I think I did a lot of that in my 20s because
That's
I
what you
went
do,
through a people-pleasing phase.
right?
Hello to recovering people pleasers. Um, However, now I would say I either just don't say anything because it's just not worth it, kind of like what I was just saying.
Hmm.
But being an independent thinker, voter, etc., it comes with its own challenges because there are so many people that are so far on both sides
Hmm.
that it's challenging to have a level-headed conversation, and we're not going to align on everything. Like, I am a socially liberal, fiscally conservative minded person, if we're going to put it in simple bucketed terms here.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily going to agree with everything that other people agree with, but if we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty here, like, do I think it's super cool that ICE is just grabbing people willy-nilly off the streets? No. It's like inhumane. That's just not how you should be operating.
It's kind of like Nazi Germany, a little bit.
Right, but I also think on the flip side, goodness gracious, like, we make it so hard to be here in this country legally. Like, what are we doing? I have a good friend of mine, queer friend. She owns a house here, free and clear, pays taxes, works here. Challenging to get a visa. Impossible.
Hmm.
So there's just so many layered things that, again, everybody it hits home differently for different people depending upon their lived experiences, things that they see. And I also think it's so easy for people to say these things or feel a certain type of way, but your mind typically isn't going to change until you've experienced something yourself personally that may make you change your mind.
Agreed.
So I would say I don't have a hard time talking about certain things, but I just think there are people that I will engage in conversation with, and there are people that I won't. And I also know there's certain people, especially my boomer generation, sorry, boomers, it's much harder to change your minds because you're just very stuck in your ways. And if you're just sitting there watching CNN and Fox News all day, oh my gosh, like, you are in an echo chamber.
Okay, well, I'm going to defend the boomers because I grew up with them
Fine.
and they're the older generation to the Gen Xers. And they're not, I mean, a lot of them are first time immigrants and had to go through their own different struggles and see the world. And they just don't have, like, all of this is just another level of noise. They've already been through the 60s, they've already been through
Absolutely.
change, they've already gone through, they've fought in wars that
Mhm.
existed long before the millennials and the Gen Zs were even born. So I think they get a bad rap, and I think it's very easy to be like, oh, the old guy and the old woman don't get it. But it's not that simple. They were once in your shoes and they were once young, fighting for the rights of people that, when issues were arising when they were growing up, and
I
things like that.
agree. I think there are certain people that fall into that category, but
Yeah.
then I think you also have Bob, who hasn't gotten out of his Bark Lounger in 20
Who
years and
is Bob?
puffs his fours in Mississippi
Is
every
Bob a
night.
figment?
He's a figment
Okay. Yes, I'm
who
sure
hasn't
Bob
really seen
exists.
a lot
Of
of life.
course. And
Of
Bob is
course.
probably anti Semitic and anti gay.
Right. So I'm just saying, but
So, yes,
that actually
everybody.
represents a fair amount of America.
Oh,
And I also think there are plenty of boomers, our parents included,
yes.
who are much more
Open
with it,
minded.
open
Yeah.
minded, have experienced hardships in the world, etc. But you can't just,
Not Bob.
there are Bobs. There are lots of Bobs,
Yeah,
there are
there's
lots
lots of
of
Bobs.
Bobs and Karens in the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just depends.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you while we were talking about, because I am X, I can't say X, and it kind of like dovetails under that, is was it weird? Because you and I've talked about this when you were growing up, like you thought about being in the locker room with the same sex, and like were they
Hmm.
going to look at you weird because they knew that you might have liked women and like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me that was a concern for a long time because I came out to some friends around the age of like 13
Oh,
or so,
okay.
but I didn't. I did it slow and steady throughout high school too, and I
Like
actually
selectively.
I did, and
Yeah.
then I think I came out as like fluid at the time, which
Oh.
it just was. It felt better for me
Yeah.
because I still wasn't 100% sure, even though let's be honest, the signs were there. Um, but for me, yeah, I think it was just a worry of for people that do know, are they worried that I'm looking at them differently or like I'm attracted to them? Because I had a lot of female friends
Yeah.
or a lot of people on the fringes. And so,
That didn't know or knew.
no, I think they did know. Like I made it more open and I'm sure other people talk, so people knew. And at my time, being a lesbian in high school, it was like really weird. It was or not weird, it was just like, wow, a lesbian. There I'm trying to think. I don't think I knew. No, I didn't know one other person that identified as liking women at my high school. There were 3 gay men that I knew. Well, lovely people, and that was nice because it's like you can relate in some way, shape, or form. Like there's someone that kind of gets it, but no, there was no one. I didn't meet anyone. Well, actually, I take that back. My friend Samantha is queer, and she talked about it with me a little bit in high school, but she was really the only one, and she didn't really come into her queerness, I'll say, until college when she
Okay.
went to college. And
Yeah.
so that was just barely there. Like she had serious male boyfriends at the time, and that was fine. But yeah, there was no one for me to really look at and say, "Oh yeah, like I get it." There wasn't really a shared experience with someone I could lean on. So I really had no one to lean on until I got to college. I have family members who are. One of my cousins is a lesbian, and one of my cousins is gay, which was helpful in some ways. But again, her experience was so different from mine that it was hard to relate. So I didn't know. Like I just would go into locker rooms thinking, "Oh God!" Like you feel the shame. You feel the shame of like I got to keep my eyes down. I don't want anybody to think this way. I don't want anyone to think that I look at them in that way or I'm attracted to them.
So uncomfortable.
It was. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. And then I got over it.
Because I find myself just daydreaming in the locker room. And like, if I had that, oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, now, I'm sure there are plenty of people who still experience that.
Of course.
But at the same time, like, now that I'm comfortable with myself, it's like, well, yeah, if I see a female that has a good body, like, I am going to look at it for probably a moment longer than someone would look at it. But I'm not, like, thinking anything about it. I can just respect that because that's where it worked. And the genetics probably. But,
it's a
mix.
mix.
It's a mix.
Yeah.
So,
like everything else.
yes.
Yeah. Great. Is there a subculture?
Yeah, there are subcultures. I think we've talked a lot about queer, but then there's things within the queer label that is like femme, butch, a soft butch.
A soft butch?
Yeah.
What's a soft butch?
I don't even know how to answer that. I think it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
Masculine, feminine roles. Like there's a lot that goes within a queer relationship. And for me, I always just lead into anyone I'm dating with, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just looking for a 50-50 split. Like I will happily do things for you. I also would hope that you would help out too. And I think conversationally, I want it to be an equal exchange. Sexually, equal exchange. Like everybody's needs deserve to be met. And I think that's just a healthy relationship regardless of sexuality. But yeah, that there's subcultures within that. I think there's also like we haven't really touched on like trans culture, and I think that that's something that's really unfortunately taboo now because I mean, geez, there's so many wonderful trans people out there that are just looking to also be accepted and loved and live their life. I think we almost have bucketed trans people into this otherness category that's like even for queer people that look at trans people in a way that is negative, which I just don't get because these poor people are literally just wonderful human beings who are just looking to be loved and accepted just like the rest of us. So I don't get that either. I think there are also
And that's even the LGBT.
Oh yeah. Like, I know plenty I've heard plenty of people in the queer community that shame trans people.
Why?
Don't know. Couldn't tell you. I don't know if it's just because again, it's different. It's not something they've seen before. It's not something they've experienced. But at the end of the day, they're human beings. Everyone
Of
deserves
course.
to be loved and accepted. And who cares who they sleep with, how they identify? Like if they are showing you respect, you deserve to show them. They deserve to be respected.
Yeah,
It's that
I
simple.
agree.
So I think that's. I mean, it's not necessarily a subculture. It's culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's.
Well, it's
I
a
think.
subculture within that community where you
Sure.
would think that community would be accepting of it,
Yeah.
and you're saying there's non-acceptance, which
There's
is
not.
yeah,
And it's already not accepted outside of queer culture. So why are we giving them such a hard time?
right.
I don't get it. We should be allies. Anyway, then there's surf subculture. I'm a surfer, so you have queer surfers, which I think is awesome. It's actually
Mhm.
that has been a really lovely subculture because one, women surfing is already rare. Being in
Right.
the lineup is usually just men in the lineup, and so when
Right.
you see a girl gang out there, at least for me, like I surf either around Swamis or at Boneyards or at Beacons here in Encinitas, and it's always just great to say hi or just make a quick exchange to know, hey, like I'm on your side, I got your back,
Mhm.
because there are a lot of people out there, men who will just make snide remarks or make comments and try to be playful. It's like I'm not interested. I'm here to enjoy my Friday, Saturday morning and just
Ocean.
catch some waves.
Yeah.
I have been surfing long enough that I understand the rules. I understand how things work. I don't need you to teach me. I'm not here to mansplain to you either. So,
I'm not gonna drop in on them.
yeah, not intentionally. And goodness gracious, if I do, I'm going to pull out quick or I'm going to apologize because it happens. It happens to everybody.
Right.
But I think queer and female surf subculture is also wonderful. And I found a lot of solace in meeting some wonderful women, queer, not queer, in surfing. And that's just been great. So there are subcultures around, and I'm grateful for those.
Okay.
It just creates a more accepting environment.
Do you have an opinion on men who have become women competing in women's sports?
Yes, I do.
Let's go
That's
there.
a really tough one. It's a tough one. This is one that a lot of people are probably not going to love my answer to, and that's okay. But I think that
They're allowed to disagree with you, and you're allowed to have an opinion.
I am, yes. And I don't agree with it. I was an athlete when I was younger. I played soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I play co-ed soccer on Fridays, so I play with men.
Right.
I think about myself in that position if I were to transition into being a male. I would still play co-ed soccer, absolutely, but I would probably get my ass handed to me transparently if I were to play in an all men's league. I would. Like
Yeah.
it's even if I was went through all the protocols and all those things, like I'm not a big person.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm fast, yes, I'm strong, but there are just certain skill sets that come with genetic differences.
Yeah.
And that put you either at an advantage or disadvantage depending upon which side of the street you're crossing on. And I don't think it makes sense, at least in a competitive sense. I think if you are competing for gold medals in the Olympics, what have you, like I don't necessarily know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you can do it recreationally. I have no issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, I actually played college rugby with Maddie, who's now Max. And I remember when Maddie transitioned to be Max,
Mm-hmm.
she initially played with us for a while and then no longer played, which I understand because I think we're a women's rugby team. And so
Right.
if you are now identifying as a male, you are not going to play.
Right.
But also understandably, he knew, okay, I'm not necessarily the biggest, tallest, strongest person. In playing men's rugby, I'm going to be at a significant disadvantage, so I may not play.
Right.
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but
that might have been the thought process.
that may have been the thought process, which
Right.
I get. I would have probably had the same thought process. So for me, I don't understand it. I think there's a place for recreational sports, but when it's specifically a women's team or what have you, and then competing for more competitive things, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, as a former competitive swimmer, I take issue with a man who transitions to a woman competing against me in the pool because I've seen it from growing up, like the
different.
the biology of
Yes.
what happens with a man and a woman and
Faster,
where they are. Like
stronger.
there's, if you look at like when your age group somewhere and you're younger and you're faster than the men, and then they get muscles and they go through puberty, and then
Right.
all of a sudden they're like schooling you. And so you can train at the same level with men, obviously,
Of
but
course.
when you're competing against them, a man who's transitioned, he has a biological advantage for being a man.
Yes.
So to not acknowledge that isn't, you can't be a proponent of women's sports and then throw that in the mix and say that it's an equal playing field. And at the same time, I think people who transition need to understand that it's not us being insulting and saying you're not welcome and you don't belong. But at the same time, you need to factor in all the factors and look at it from
Yeah.
that lens.
It's a nuanced issue.
It's
And
definitely
I'll ask
nuanced.
you this
Yeah.
because obviously we have the Paralympics.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in some ways, it's kind of it's not similar, but it's similar in the sense that they are still able to do something that they love because they're at a
Course.
disadvantage. And in some ways, I see people that are just trying to truly be themselves
Right.
and do something that they love. I think that's just where I'm curious to see how that will change or evolve over time because I do understand why you would want to continue to represent your country and do
Oh,
something you
yeah.
love in your own skin when you're comfortable in
Mm-hmm.
your own skin.
Yeah.
But as you said, like there is a biological advantage or disadvantage depending upon who's in that pool or who's on that field.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I hope we can figure out a way for those folks to be able to participate because I understand the reason behind it, but I don't necessarily agree with it in its current form.